3, 2, 1.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. This is The Real Pineapple, coming to you on a very snowy first of the month. Happy December. God, it's cold. It's really cold outside. Yeah, not great, but I am here with one of our frequent contributors. You can check him out on his podcast, On the Fly with KJ and OJ. He's kind of good at this. He Twitch streams. He's getting a brand new computer, so you can be getting a lot more content from him coming up, which I'm excited for him. OJ, how you doing, sir?
Hello! I'm doing good, man. Thank you again, as always, for having me on the show.
Yeah, and we got to watch we actually saw this together last week.
We did.
I still have not reviewed, I guess what I consider a compliment movie to this. I still need to. Like, it almost became a joke on the podcast where we kept saying, like, we'll review it, and we still haven't, like, over a year later, and I need to. But we are talking about A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood today, which, if you guys have listened to the podcast for a certain amount of time, you know I'm a huge fan of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That was a huge piece of my childhood. I'm going to go through a couple of childhood shows. Batman animated series, obviously. Garfield and Friends, naturally. Sailor Moon, #no shame. Darkwing Duck. And then Reading Rainbow and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. They actually came on, like, right after each other. Or it might have been, like, I think maybe Reading Rainbow was, like, maybe 3 o'clock, and then it might have been, like, Puzzle Place in the middle, and then Mr. Rogers. But they came on, they were both on PBS, and I have genuine admiration for both of those shows. Mr. Rogers was always one of those characters, one of those guys you just watch and go, how you're so good at this, you make it look so easy. But if you look at kids' TV now, because I got Disney Plus, so I've been kind of curious, like, all right, what are kids watching now? And some of the stuff kids have now, oh my god, it's bad, man. It's like people just aren't trying anymore. So to have something like this, Mr. Rogers, that's endured for so long, and it's still getting reruns to this day, you can check it out on Amazon Prime, which I highly recommend if you have young kids who haven't seen this. I love Mr. Rogers. I really do, and this movie meant so much to me going in. I was terrified because, and if you listen to the podcast last year around Oscar time, How Won't You Be My Neighbor didn't get at least nominated for Best Documentary. It's to this day one of the most mind-boggling what the fucks that the Oscars have had in the last decade. I love Free Solo, and it would be tough for me to choose between two of them, but for it not to be nominated was we're goddamn ridiculous if we're being honest here. So going into this movie, I was like, okay, like, I don't know what you could do that the documentary couldn't. And it presents this movie kind of like an episode of the show, and it works so well in the format it does. I went, okay, that was a genuinely clever decision that you guys made, and I gotta say, man, I love this movie. I adore this movie so much. We saw it together, man. So talk to me. Kind of what were your expectations going in? And
yeah, so we watched the documentary together as well.
We did. Yeah,
and that I watched a portion of it before going in to see the movie. Before I showed up to the theater.
Okay.
Because it was on sale pretty cheap recently on Amazon, and so I was like, I don't own this. I wanted a physical copy, but I was like, just to have it, I just want it now. I gladly paid for it, picked it up, watched a good portion of it, and it just reminded me like how much of a positive influence that he had, and not just that, but like the intent behind it all. Like the documentary really deep dives early into all of that, and to see it acted out almost as its own independent creation with the influence. And what I mean by that is, like you said, with it being, it's like playing out like an episode, it's very cleverly written and put together in that way that feels very Mr. Rogers. Because I was the same way as you. It was something that I used to watch a lot as a kid as well. My mom would tell you to this day that she was like, I was always glad when Mr. Rogers came on and you sat down in front of it because it was calm. And it always stuck with me with what she said regarding it. But when I heard it was going to be Tom Hanks, I was really excited that Tom Hanks was going to play him. And I was scared, nervous, the whole bit.
Same.
But at the same time, I was like, I'm gonna show some faith on this, because when it comes to the character, like, how do I put this? Like, we talked about it with when your give a shit button is turned on.
Yeah.
And I think there's few, like, for someone to want to go ahead and make a movie about an interaction with Mr. Rogers and how impactful that can be, you have to give a shit about that subject. And you will obviously put more thought and care and effort into it. And I think everybody did that on all counts. So I just left it in good faith, because that's what we got with the documentary as well. That amount of energy and effort. And so, yeah.
Yeah, going into this, though, it is a terrifying feeling. Now, we both kind of were in awe, because the first picture they ever released was of Tom Hanks in his trailer, dressed in the Mr. Rogers, red, kind of red turtleneck and all that. We were very like, oh, wow, Tom Hanks looks about as close to him as Tom Hanks could look. And
yep.
And I mean that respectfully, because, one of my favorite performances of Michael Fassbender's Steve Jobs, he looks nothing like Steve Jobs, but he captured the essence of who Steve Jobs was so well that you go, all right, you can not look as much like him, and it still works. Ask Ashton Kutcher about that. That went so well. And I'll say, dude, like Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, she does not look like Wonder Woman, like especially size wise, but she does capture the essence of that character. So people go, all right, fair enough. That's the same thing here. They really went out of their way to make Tom Hanks look as much of Mr. Rogers as they could. They even said they really just gave him a wig and went ahead and thickened his eyebrows, because Mr. Rogers had very thick eyebrows. And Tom Hanks, man, you want to talk about a guy? It's going to be a weird comparison, but stick with me here. Todd Hanks is kind of like LeBron James. Like, he's consistent as all get out, and he rarely has a miss.
Yeah.
You go through Tom Hanks' filmography, it's kind of insane how much shit he's been in that I just adore. Like, I mean, Toy Story 4. Don't know if it'll crack my top 10, but it's an incredible film. The Post was amazing. Sully was great.
The David S. Pumpkins Halloween special.
Oh, pardon me, you're right. I really enjoyed Bridge of Spies, too. I actually really like Bridge of he played Walt Disney, too, in Saving Mr. Banks, which is a good movie. Very fictional, because Walt Disney, I doubt, was that nice. Especially with Jewish people. He was like... let's be real. But he was great in that. And one of my favorite roles that he's done is Captain Phillips. I freaking love Captain Phillips so much. He's so good in that freaking movie. Tom Hanks is one of the best actors we've ever had.
Yep.
And this...
Who to think the guy from Bosom Buddies?
Yeah, right? Because
I remember watching reruns of Bosom Buddies, because, like, I'm a few years older than you, man. So, like, I remember Tom Hanks's, like, basically coming out party. Like, I remember when Turner and Hooch was released. I remember when The Burbs was released. Like, when he started picking up all that steam, man.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he was everywhere, and he was fucking always consistent.
Well, it's funny, like, the first Tom Hanks movie I think I saw was Turner and Hooch.
Oh, yeah.
And then I went back and saw Dragnet. I'm like, this is a weird...
I love Dragnet.
It's weird, though, to see go from Turner and Hooch to Dragnet, but of course I'd flipped them. And then, of course, you see Big, and Big, as creepy as it is, this adult woman making out with, pulling a Drake. Go ahead.
Oh, pulling a Drake.
Sorry, allegedly. Drake, stop tweeting people who are under 18. Come on, brother. What are you doing? Anyways, but I remember it was probably around League of Their Own for me when I went, okay, like, he's really starting to... I think Sleepless in Seattle is a good movie. I'm not in love with it like so many other people are. I like it. I think it's good, but I'm not like, oh my god, it's the best thing ever. But one of my favorite roles still of his is A League of Their Own. I think him as Jimmy Dugan, he hates everyone. It just makes me laugh, and I bring that up to bring up Matthew Reyes. I think that's how you say it. I'm gonna say Reyes. I'm gonna go with Reyes. If you guys will listen to the pod, you know I'm a big fan of The Americans. I think it's a damn good show, a very underrated show. I got about to season 3, and it's one of those shows there's too much content out right now, so it was one of those shows that just kind of fell by the wayside for me. But he's an incredible actor, and he's married to Kerry Russell, so good for him. But jerk. But seeing him in this, I went, okay, he's going to be acting alongside Tom Hanks. I'm curious, and I think what will surprise people is that he is really the main character in this. Mr. Rogers is more secondary, but he's about as essential for being secondary as you can be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a weird way to phrase it, but Matthew Reyes in this, though, he plays Lloyd, and Lloyd is what corporations want you to turn into, so you'll just like buy stuff to try and mask your pain. Like, he's the most cynical, like, angry person, to a point where his wife even is like, dude, you gotta chill. And his wife is played by Susan, I'm gonna butcher this, Kelechi Watson is what I'm gonna go with.
She's fantastic.
She's amazing, and I think she could get Best Supporting Actress, man, because she really does carry some, not carry, but she is so vital to not just the plot.
She anchors it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but she's so vital to so many of those emotional scenes. There's a point where Lloyd and his dad get in this argument, who's played by Chris Cooper, and Chris Cooper. The last thing I remember him in was the Muppets when he was rapping. And I mean, so Chris Cooper has so much rope for me just because I remember him rapping. I'm like, what the hell is happening?
Anybody who works with Muppets and partakes in a Mr. Rogers film, they're all right in my book.
Yeah, right. And I will say, too, did a better job dying than in that last Spider-Man movie.
Oh, my God.
Because remember, he was Osborn. And, yeah. But Chris, the thing is that's not even frustrating, that's captivating about this movie, is that Lloyd has a good reason to be pissed off at his dad, Jerry, because his dad left him and his mom. They don't say what she died from. I think it's you can kind of imply it's cancer, though.
Yeah, I would agree.
And and yeah, he just flat out left him. And so Lloyd is trying to take care of his mom, and it's a real heartbreak. Like it's kind of like an onion in that sense, where you understand that he's mad at his dad for something, and then they kind of peel a little more back, and they peel a little more back, and as you see the layers get exposed, you go, "Oh man, Lloyd just really hates his dad." Like, but you get why he's so angry. The problem is that his anger is poisoning the good shit in his life.
Yep.
Because his wife is amazing, man. How she hasn't like slapped him, and let's be real. I mean, there are multiple points where she should have, to be completely honest. And
I found their most heartwarming scene to be that spot where where he apologizes to her, and he basically kind of pulls his head out of his ass, for all intent and purposes.
Yeah.
And you could tell, like, she is that legit anchor for him to keep him from just like going off the deepest of ends. And it's a connect. You know how it could be with really shitty on-screen chemistry. Thank God we do not have this between these two. Like, their chemistry is excellent.
Yeah, no. What would have been bad, because so much of the dialogue in this is so just sparkling and so engaging. It would have been a shame if they didn't have chemistry and they're just delivering the dialogue flat, because you'd go, "Oh, that's such a good line. Why can't you?" But there's a point where Lloyd's dad gets sick, and we're jumping into spoiler territory. We always do for spoilers on here, but the thing that was crazy about the scene they had in the hospital, is that she just finally kind of unloads and goes, "Look, dude, you need to be here right now." Because Lloyd is working on this piece on Mr. Rogers. And can I say, too, about the piece, I'm blanking on the name of the magazine he works for, but his boss goes, "Yeah, I know this isn't the type of thing you normally do. That's exactly why I'm making you do it, because his manager doesn't come out and say it, but she basically goes, "You're kind of a cynical prick, and you're kind of throwing off the vibe in the office,
and like this will do you some good."
Yeah, and I think that's where my hatred for Lloyd came from, is that he's so out to have a get you moment with Mr. Rogers, like so badly. The first time he interacts with Mr. Rogers, he's waiting for him to finish up a Make-A-Wish thing, which is something that this movie brought up that I ignorantly didn't really even think about, is how many Make-A-Wishes Mr. Rogers must have had.
Yep.
And we always talk about this. While I'm not a fan of John Cena, I'll be reviewing Playing with Fire, and spoiler, it's not great. But one thing I always respected about John Cena is the amount of Make-A-Wishes he did, and how he took time out of his insane schedule, especially when he was wrestling full time, taking time out of his schedule to go ahead and make an impact on these kids. And I always respected that. And they show one scene here where Mr. Rogers is interacting with completing a Make-A-Wish, and they say they're like 75 minutes over time, something
like about that,
yeah. And the director is just sitting there in her seat, like he's throwing us off. Oh my god. And OJ and I were talking about this off mic, because you would imagine Mr. Rogers would be just a nightmare for a director, because he's got to have people come up to him all the time and wanting his help or just wanting to say hi, and
he doesn't really push people away.
He doesn't, which, I'll be honest, dude, and this is not trying to toot my own horn here, I think I'm a pretty good person, man, but even I'm watching somebody, dude, how do you do this every...
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, every day you're doing this. Like, that's insane to me. And again, that's part of the part of not trying to become Lloyd. But Lloyd witnesses him finishing up this wish. The line that got me is a kid has a tank, an oxygen tank.
Yeah.
And he's got this not like a foam sword, but
it's like it's a hard plastic.
Yeah. And he kind of goes, and Mr. Rogers goes, "Oh, that looks like a sharp sword and like a heavy sword. Like, you must be really strong, physically and in here to be able to lift that up." And the kid hands the sword to his mom and just gives Mr. Rogers the biggest hug. And I'll tell you right now, dude, we saw it in the theater together.
Yep.
What tears immediately. I was like, "Oh, movie, you're killing me."
I teared up like 4 or 5 times during this. I can't even remember like what exact spots, because like once it kind of breaks you, you're kind of like, it's just gonna happen like here and there. Because like no. Because like when we saw the documentary, I was trying to hold it together, and I held it together until the very fucking end.
Yeah.
When they pull something I was just not expecting.
Yeah.
That I really liked, of course, obviously, but it wasn't until the very end. This movie was about like 20 minutes in. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch, here we go.
No, I honestly, dude, I knew I was going to cry going into the documentary, so I just kind of surrendered to it. And, dude, I've been crying so much more. Like, pretty much since I started the podcast, like, I would cry on occasion at movies. But, dude, I cried during, oh, God, what did I just cry in? So, okay, I will give the movie this. I got a little choked up during Playing with Fire, because there's one thing they talk about the parents, them dying, and I went... that's kind of... And I was like, no, bad guys. You get no
Don't make me feel feelings.
Yeah, you get no tears. But that scene in particular, you just go, oh my God. And there's a point where Lloyd is going to interview Fred again, and they get on the subway. And look, I highly doubt this scene happened in real life. I fully acknowledge this, where they get on the subway, and this little black girl goes, "Oh, hey, Mr. Rogers," and they, like, the whole train basically starts singing. And that is the moment I think I hated Lloyd the most.
Yeah.
Because everyone around him is singing the song, the "Won't You Be My Neighbor" song, which, by the way, still holds up.
Oh, of course.
Just I was humming it in the theater. I was singing it in the theater. I was like, yeah, this is great. And Lloyd just refuses. He used to Scrooge of that train. He just looking around like, nope, I refuse. I refuse to sing. I refuse to be happy. There's adults singing that fucking song. He's just like, nope. And that's when I just went, man, you're just a cynical asshole, and you just need to kind of calm down.
Hey, Oscar, you're a grouch.
Yeah, seriously,
dude. A fucking trash can.
Like, it's frustrating. So as I'm sitting there watching it, crying because of just how sweet that was. And Mr. Rogers clapped for him because, again, he is a friggin' gentleman. Lloyd just standing there, arms crossed, like, whatever. You're all pitchy.
You're all sheep.
Yeah,
bad.
Yeah, like it's frustrating, but it's good because Lloyd is just that. The movie drops this line, and I'm paraphrasing. Mr. Rogers drops this line about, forgiving isn't about the other person; it's about you being able to move on.
Yep.
And it's even harder to forgive someone that you love, which is oh so true. Like, that was some knowledge that went, yep, that's accurate. But seeing Lloyd go through his journey, because him and his wife just had a kid, and so he obviously has daddy issues with his dad, who he calls Jerry, which I
like call him dad for a long time.
He calls him like, and I'll be honest, dude. I know your dad wasn't there for you, but call him Jerry like that. Couldn't you call him something else? Like, just say, like, hey, man. Like, you have to call him Jerry and just rub the salt in. Like,
hey, bro.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's
hey,
almost...
Deuterino.
Sup, sport? It's like...
Sup, spurt?
It's like, it's almost more dehumanizing to call him Jerry because of the nows behind it, by just calling him dude or something like that.
And I think that's the intent, though.
It totally is. But there is just that point where you go, okay, man, like, you punch him in the face at your sister's wedding, like, which, by the way, his wife leaves for 2 minutes. He comes back, and he's gotten into a fight with his dad about his mom, and again, the thing that's frustrating is that...
to be fair, his dad did kind of, like, poke the bear first.
He did.
The way he talked to his wife.
No, true. I mean, he called her doll, which I'm like, dude...
Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like...
I mean, you didn't say, like, hey, horsehair or something like that. Like, wow. I mean, I would have swung first immediately, too, if he did that. But he...
I'm just saying, he poked the bear first.
He did poke the bear, but I'm like, dude, it's your sister's, her third wedding, admittedly, which he also points out and goes, oh, I love doing this speech every year. It's like, dude, like, sometimes people don't get it right the first time.
So
like,
I laugh just because my sister's been married a few times.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, so I was just like,
And look, I did laugh. I wouldn't. I laughed, but it's one of those things where you go like, dude, okay, like, we get it. Damn, like, relax a little here. And this movie, above all else, about it not even really being about Mr. Rogers, it's really about Lloyd just getting over his anger and being able to move on. And I think as that sort of hero's journey, this works so insanely well. And I even hate to bring this up, but I'm going to bring these people up just because, and I'm going to tie it in here. So the National Review, I don't look at their stuff often, but I typed in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood to get the cast list.
Yeah.
And the National Review, I believe they're the same website who said that Unplanned was a great piece of educational filming. So yeah, they're wrong. But which if you've not listened to my Unplanned review, I highly recommend you do. But this the review on here is talking about how the Christian faith element is the missing ingredient for this movie. They bring up his faith a couple times in here, and
in passing, though.
In passing, but at the same time, though, I think, how do I put this? If you want to hear more about his faith, even the documentary, they bring it up a little bit, but it's not. I
feel like they bring it up in a different way, though. In the documentary, they use it as a what's the term I'm looking for? As a set piece in the sense of, like, just keep in mind, this is part of the background as all these decisions are being made for this person moving forward. Like, this still hovers above him as himself because that's who he is. Yeah. And definitely more so in the documentary because, they talk about that, especially when it comes to the one gentleman who is gay that that Mr. Rogers, had that, I don't want to say confrontation in a negative context, but a confrontation that made him change the way he even acted, remember? Yeah. Because it was one way and then he's like, I'm reconciling my feelings about this and, treating you like you should be treated as anyone else and moving forward with it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And it's something that, because it's the action that is the focal point. It's not the why, it's the consistency.
Yeah, and I think with this, too, they bring up the fact that, because Lloyd even asked his wife, Joanne, who's played by Marianne Plunkett, who you've seen in stuff. I remember seeing her in House of Cards. That's where I recognized her. But one thing that's great is that she even brings up the fact that when he's overwhelmed and when so many people are asking him for help and putting their worries and everything on him, that he finds solace in swimming laps every day, and talks about how he writes letters. And they make a point to even say he prays for everyone by name. By the way, I did confirm the National Review is the same website that houses the article here. It says unplanned will change minds and empower unplanned. So don't listen to anything that stupid website tells you. But them talking about his faith here, I think they bring it up enough, and they do a good job of making you realize like it's his floor. And also, by the way, you don't need to be a Christian or religious to have a moral compass, which I feel is what the article is saying, which is also completely freaking wrong. So I appreciate the way they brought up his faith here. If there's one small complaint, and it is like the tiniest nitpick, there's this one scene where he's talking to Lloyd about how he was a father, about him being a father, and Mr. Rogers alludes to this point where him and his son, one of his sons, had a rough patch and they got through it. I would have kind of liked to have known what said rough patch was. I was just kind of curious. I'm like, oh, what happened? And it just kind of moves on. I was like, oh, I mean, but dude, that is like my one real. I don't even call it complaint because that's so harsh. Like, it's just something I would have personally liked a little clarity on. I mean, as far as gripes, I mean, what you got, man? Because I feel like we've just been praising this, and
there's like just a couple like technical things they did. One of the things that I don't like in a scene that's framed up and shot and everything, unnecessary like zoom ins and zoom outs, pulling the camera back, and there's a couple real intimate scenes that I think are a little stronger if it's a bit tighter in the shot.
Okay.
Particularly between Lloyd and his wife. There's a couple like earlier on too where it's pulling back, and it's like I don't want to see this pulled back. Like I don't need to see how dark their bedroom is while they're talking about some things.
Okay.
Focus it more on the characters. This is who this is about. Especially for Lloyd. I mean, he is the real main character in this.
Yeah.
And aside from just those couple of things, I guess my only gripe, and this isn't on the movie, this is on the promoting of the movie. The movie, like the setup for the movie, almost feels like it's a Mr. Rogers biopic. This is not that.
Yeah, okay.
This is definitely not that. This is the story of a man's interaction with Mr. Rogers and how it changed his life. That's a totally cool thing to, make a movie about. But the quick judgment of a biopic, this is not.
That's fair.
And so, that's really my only nitpicks.
I would honestly tell someone to watch Won't You Be My Neighbor in this back-to-back. I think that I really think you will have more of a appreciation for Mr. Rogers if you go that route. I want to just go through a couple lines of dialogue here and a couple other things here. There's a line Mr. Rogers drops that made me weep. Like, not cry, but weep, where he says, children need to know that even when adults make plans, things don't always happen the way they want. And that's just such a simple little thing. He also drops a line here, he says, mercy, fame is a 4-letter word, like tape or zoom. All that matters is that what you do with it. Giving children positive ways to deal with their feelings. I mean, just there's so much dialogue in here that I was in the theater like, oh my god, I gotta write that down. Oh god, I gotta write that down. It's and the line and this line is so good, it actually made me bump up half a letter grade. It's by Joanne Rogers. She's Lloyd asks her because they're kind of he's out in front of a building. Some people surrounded him, and Lloyd asks her, how does it feel to be married to a saint? And she says, I hate that word because if you think of him as a saint, his way of life is unattainable. Which, oh my God, yes to that. And the thing is that I think people might romanticize is that you have to be as good as Mr. Rogers, and I want to phrase that carefully because honestly, you just have to try to be a good person, and really a lot of stuff he's doing isn't earth-shattering stuff. He's caring, he's listening, he's giving people hugs. OJ will tell you, I'm a big hug person. Like, I love hugs. So
it's true.
I mean, it's true. I like hugs, and so just seeing him hug people and just really not do the thing that you do with someone when you're about to break up with them, like we're keeping a conversation going, like, oh yeah,
which is another
crazy.
good Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah.
That thing you do.
That is
sorry.
That is a good one.
It is.
God.
Which he directed.
Oh, that's right. He did direct that. But it's so script wise, so tight on the script. It was written by a couple people that I didn't realize I liked their work until I looked them up. Micah Fitzman Blue and then Noah Harpster. They both worked on Transparent, that Amazon show that actually did really well until Jeremy Tambor ended up being allegedly
a bit
grabby, yeah. So again, allegedly, don't sue us. And but that show's so well written, the dialogue pops, and it makes a lot of sense looking them up, going, okay, of course you wrote this. And Mariel Heller. You guys know, if you listen to the pod, I am not a fan of, why am I blanking on her name? Melissa McCarthy at all. But Can You Ever Forgive Me is a brilliant film, which got a lot of Oscar buzz last year and got multiple nominations. I think this is going to fall into that same, camp. So she's 2 for 2 in the last couple of years. So, props to her.
That is, yeah.
The last thing I will say before we go to a grade, you can kind of figure out where this is going, more than likely. We already said spoilers, so Jerry ends up dying, and as he's getting closer to death, Mr. Rogers goes over to their house and is interacting with the family and talking to them. It's really sweet, by the way. Just another reason you go like, oh God. And he leans over to Jerry and gives him a hug and whispers something in his ear. Mm-hmm. And so Lloyd walks him out and goes, what would you say to my dad? And he goes, well, and I will say, when Lloyd does forgive Jerry, that's a scene I just went, oh man. Yep. That you want to see Chris Cooper just show out and Matthew Reyes show out. Whoo! It's a powerful scene. It's a powerful scene. And so as Lloyd walks Mr. Rogers out, he asks him, what did you tell my dad? And he says, well, I asked him to pray for me. He goes, well, why would you ask him to do that? And he says, well, because someone who's going through something like that must be really close to God. And then I just started crying all over again. I was like, oh my God, that makes me hate the National Review thing more. He just brought up God right there. One of the most powerful fucking National.
And it's arguably the best line of the movie.
Yeah. So save your. Anyways, I'm going to be like Mr. Rogers. I'm going to move on. But end of the day, dude, this really kind of screwed up my top 10 list because I'm still working on it, and we've got a lot of reviews coming, and OJ will tell you I've got a lot of stuff I'm watching right now. So, but this was so beautifully done, and I'm buying this first day it's out. Like, I'll probably pre-order this when there's a release date. I don't know if there'd be a steelbook. I hope there is. Maybe I want a steelbook of this, but this movie, man, just it hits you in all the right spots, and we're coming up on an election year, which means it's going to get real fun. So it actually might be good to watch something like this to kind of make you feel better. to be completely honest,
we get so stuck on the darker side of the human condition when it comes to the movies we watch, the shows we watch, and everything. Like, we relate to it so easy because, it's reflection of society onto oneself. And it's nice to have something that shows the lighter side for a change. And while it's something dark to get through, like, sometimes there is a happily ever after. And even with some darker consequences to it because of the loss of his father and everything like that. But he's a better, stronger person in the end. And how many times have we gone through grief and loss and not always come out that same as good as Lloyd does? You know, like I think it's nice to have this around this time of year.
I agree 1,000%. I didn't mention him and I need to, but Enrico Colantoni, he was on Just Shoot Me. I love Just Shoot Me. I think it's a great show. And, of course, I'm a huge Veronica Mars fan. So I was really happy to see him.
Quest.
Yeah, and, of course, Galaxy Quest. And him and Lloyd, he plays Bill. Bill and Lloyd have some great back and forth. Bill just pretty much comes right out and goes, yeah, so just so you know, I don't like you at all, and I don't support you being around Mr. Rogers at all. And to be honest, when Bill kind of lays it out, you go, oh, yeah, it makes sense. I get why you would want him around. But they have some really good back and forth, and I just... Everyone here felt like they gave a damn and knew what they were in, and they brought it. I really want to sing the praises again to Susan Kelechi Watson. I really think... I haven't seen her anything prior to this. Wow, yeah, this is only her, like, third credit. So this is really, like, her first big movie. And damn, good for you, girl. Like, she could get a Best Supporting Actress nomination off this. She really could. It's a tight year this year. I fully acknowledge, but she needs to be in consideration. She was incredible in this. So, to the surprise of no one, I'm going to give this a fan-fucking-tastic. I thought this was brilliant start to finish. We didn't even talk about how when there's, like, a plane taking off, it's Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, but you see, like, the plane taking off, so it looks like the world and, like, the cities look like an episode of Mr. Rogers as far as how it's shot.
Yep.
And it's such a subtle little visual thing, but... it really does make you go, oh man, it gives you that sense of wonder.
It works really well.
Yeah, like it's a very nice aesthetic thing that I went, oh, that's a really clever twist. So I really appreciate that. So yeah, man, fan-fucking-tastic, absolutely loved it. Yeah. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, man. Also for me, a fan-fucking-tastic.
Yeah.
I fucking adored this movie. I will buy this eventually. I still may get a physical copy of the documentary, and I'll just throw this out there too. I'm also going to give a fan-fucking-tastic to the documentary.
Same.
Just so that it's on record.
That's fair. That's fair.
Without going too much into it, it's so awesome to just have both of these films inside of 18 months.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Because the documentary was last summer.
Yeah, like May, I want to say.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah.
And so to have both of these together in 18 months is just a fucking great thing to have. And
Great.
I cannot say enough. Okay, how do I put this? It takes a lot for me to tear up at a movie, let alone... Because I have certain ones that'll do it every single time.
Like what's one?
Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh, fair.
When Boromir dies.
That's fair.
That just gets me every single fucking time. I don't know why. It just does. But, anyhow, this made me tear up multiple times in all the right ways. And for that alone, to make me feel something that heavy, giving it less than a fan-fucking-tastic is a slap in the face of the movie.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll end up doing a full review before Oscars. Before Oscars, I can do that, but I'll just say there's so much about that documentary that I love. There is a reunion in the credits that I won't spoil.
Yeah, that's what got me.
For documentary, and it's just oh god, really? Like we both.
Yeah, no, that was the thing that got me for the documentary. That was the one time I cried was there. But like for this film with Tom Hanks, it got me multiple times. So yeah.
So apparently they're going for Tom Hanks for Best Supporting Actor. I'm gonna be honest, man. It could be his award to lose. It really could be his to lose. I won't talk about my Oscar picks really until mid-January once I've watched all the stuff that could be potentially, in the main categories.
He deserves to be in the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Because this is one of the best performances. This reminded me very much of when I saw Saving Private Ryan. I went, oh my god, he's amazing. And it's like it gave me that sort of, like, jolt. And not like he hasn't had stuff like that since then. I mean, the post he was made, but as far as that reaction where I just went, oh man, like he might just have this on lock now. This is that movie, and Matthew Rhys, man, he should be in the conversation for Best Actor. He really should, because the range of emotions he has to show is insanely impressive, and everything that he does in this movie is so convincing. So he should be in the conversation too. And I will say, director's going to be interesting this year, but Marielle Heller, I believe she was nominated last year for Can You Ever Forgive Me? She might get there again off this. She really might. So I'm very curious on how the Oscar love this could potentially get. I think the Academy realizes they screwed up last year with the documentary, so this movie might benefit in that way. If that makes sense.
It could.
So I'll be watching because I'm curious how this will break down. But guys, have you seen Won't You Be My Neighbor? Let us know what you thought in the comments. No, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Dang it, that's right. Have you seen Won't You Be My Neighbor either? let us know in the comments below. You can go ahead and like us on Facebook at The Real Pineapple. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. You can follow Scott on Twitter at Nearmanthefirst. You can follow Colin on Twitter at TheReal, that's REEL O'Neal. Colin is going to be back here in a couple of weeks. I'm so excited. We will talk about why he's been MIA. And OJ, tell the people where they can find your stuff, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me and KJ on Twitter at KJ and OJ spelled out. That is KJANDOJ. My personal Twitter is at the O to the J, and that's with the number 2 in there. Also, do check us out, our show On the Fly on SoundCloud. You can find us there. And my Twitch stream, which will be really ramping up in the next couple weeks, is going to be at twitch.tv/O to the J.
And you can go ahead and find The Real Pineapple on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Podbean at The Real Pineapple. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll have a review this upcoming week for The Irishman. Yeah, I have not been able to just sit down and watch a 3.5 hour long movie, but we'll have a review up for that this upcoming week, and we will have reviews up soon for Just Mercy, which I'm... I just watched Queen Slim, so I might need a little break from seeing black folk be really. I can only watch 2 videos at a time. I gotta space it out. But we'll have a review for Irishman, Just Mercy, and Marriage Story here in the next week. Which Marriage Story, that's another one I'm working through, and not the feel good movie of the year, but guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for the support. We will talk to you soon.